This is disturbing TikToks that absolutely changed my reality. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's dive in.
On this wall, this is limestone. This is calcite crystal. So this entire section of the wall, this part here, and this part here is all huge single slab of limestone. I mean, calcite crystal.
Calcite.
Yeah, alabaster.
Yeah. Wow.
You see that? The limestone and the calcite crystal.
Wow.
Ma fiche noire. Who's going to show us? What about your flashlight? This one's better. Yes, I know.
Here is statue.
All right. So he's going to show you.
Okay?
Yeah.
No statue, okay?
Yeah.
I know, okay? Let's see.
Okay, you see the figure?
Whoa.
You see the belly button and then the arms?
Yeah.
Somebody did pop out of that statue. Out of the hieroglyphics. That was cool. Look, we don't see nothing, and then bam! You see a person slightly carved in there. I wonder what other new mysteries we're gonna uncover. I've never seen white algae before, so I couldn't tell you.
You know, when you get older, I'm 57 years old. Let me roll this one up right quick. When you get older, you understand that don't nothing matter. Don't nothing matter. Don't nothing matter in this life except serving God, whatever you believe to be God, finding out why you're here, and family. All this other stuff don't mean nothing, man. I spent so many years running and chasing after money, chasing after women, and it's all just smoke. It all means nothing. All that matters, man, I'm telling you, if you got a family that love you, you know what I'm saying, make sure you love on them, because for most of us, if you've been here long enough, you realize that we're not going to be here forever. And if we're not
And the grass is not greener on the other side.
gonna be here forever. All that matters, man, is God, family. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. The car I'm driving right now, the house that I have, the material things I have, it's all temporary. Everything else in life is temporary. Don't spend your whole life like I did running and chasing out this stuff, man, and get in your 30s, 40s, and 50s and realize you wasted your whole life. Always worrying about how you look. Always worrying about what people think about you. You'll waste your whole life and be stressed the F out, man, with no peace of mind because you worry about the things of this world. I've come to the conclusion that it's not a whole lot that matters. If you find somebody that love you and that you can love, and you got a good family, which most of us don't have these days.
Who can find a virtuous one? She is worth billions of rubies.
Most of us don't even have family. Be at peace with that. Forget, man, I'm telling you, all this material stuff. Who cares what car you got? Who cares what kind of house you live in?
My truck cost $4,000. I would have got it for 38, but he hustled me. He was like, man, you might as well give me 4. I was like, okay, but hey, I like the truck.
Some people work 40, 80 hours a week, man, paying for this stuff, draining themselves dry, don't have no life, pretty much living in slavery, and don't realize that this stuff means nothing. For me right now, it's just about peace. If I can find peace, if I can find people that's peaceful, that's what life is about to me. That's why on your tombstone they say it's R.I.P., rest in peace, because I'm telling you, man, in this life you don't get none. You don't get none. So find your peace.
I believe the Lord is our peace. It reminds me in a book of Acts when Stephen, he was going his hardest trying to explain to everybody their wrongs and what the prophets did, and they started throwing stones at him, and they said he fell asleep. It said he didn't unalive. It said he fell asleep. I believe while they were stoning him, he yelled out, "Lord, please not lay this on their charge." And then he fell asleep. One of my favorite stories in the Bible. Stephen in the book of Acts. It's been a minute since I read it, but that's where it's at if you wanted to find it.
Now, I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but there is one that it wouldn't take a whole lot of effort to get me to believe in it. You see, a few years ago, when everybody was talking about like quiet quitting and stuff, I was talking to my friend who was an HR manager, and she made the observation that, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. And I was like, is it really that nobody wants to work, or is it just that people aren't afraid to be fired? You know, the internet and the creator economy and gig economy and everything else has sort of stabilized, at least partially, the playing field, right? To where the threat of, no, you have to miss your sister's wedding or else you're fired. You better show up, is usually met with, okay. Or as the kids say, bet. Fast forward 3 or 4 years later, and now all of a sudden, everybody's posting jobs, but nobody's actually hiring, right? And it would not surprise me if businesses were attempting to create some sort of artificial scarcity situation with jobs. So employees are once again afraid to be fired. I mean, there is no other logical explanation for why I would submit my resume to 10,000 at least different jobs. That's a conservative estimate. 10,000 different jobs that I am at least qualified or overqualified for. And I wouldn't get more than 1 or 2 interviews and 0 jobs to show from it. You know what I mean?
You got to become your own boss nowadays. You got to work 18 hours just so you don't have to punch in for the 9 to 5. But what they tell you that the 8 hours you work from the 9 to 5, the 8 hours is actually 10 because they don't count the hour it takes to get there and back. And you don't want to count the time it takes to get ready and to mentally prepare yourself. And then let's say you do land the job. You got to deal with the work culture. You got to fit in. They got to like you nowadays. If they don't like you, you might not make it past the probationary period. I've been there personally. Everybody's got to like you. You can't ruffle Sally's feathers. You can't talk too loud when Joseph is on his cigarette break and on his, it's certain things you got to tiptoe around. You just can't show up to work and do a good job and work extremely hard. They got to like you as well. Or at least fit into the work culture is what I was told.
You feel like your ambition is worth another family losing their home?
Yes, that is the game of capitalism. Okay? You have to know how to play in order to win. It's not my fault that you're a loser. Life's cruel, man. Nature is cruel. And this is the system we've built.
How do you feel sucking off the poor?
As I try to explain, we don't suck off the poor. The poor suck off us.
How much money did you make last year?
37.5 mil after taxes last year.
And how much do you think you paid in taxes?
2 or 3 million out of that.
That's it?
Well, that's tax code. Don't blame me. You want to change it? Elect somebody else.
I feel like the system is designed to keep the poor and the rich wealthy. This is a prime example. Look at the rent. I remember it feels like a couple years ago, you can get a 1-bedroom for $500. At least a studio for $5 in a decent neighborhood. Now you can't find nothing for under $1,200, $1,500. That's mortgage prices, and people are now saying that paying mortgage isn't as good as rent. Can you believe that? At least when you're paying mortgage, you get some of your money back. Yeah, you're paying a lot of interest, but rent, you don't get nothing back. This is how they think. Cutthroat. It gets savage.
If time doesn't exist, Why do we remember a past and fear a future? When I was in a coma, I learned really wild. I learned that time isn't what we think it is. We live this life frame by frame like we're watching a movie. But here's the thing. The movie has already been filmed. Every version of you, every chapter already exists. The only reason why we think in the past or in the future is because we're stuck inside the character's point of view. But the author already sees the entire book. Now, when I was in the coma, when I was unconscious, I stepped outside of the pages. I could see multiple doors and I could see multiple paths all existing at the same time. That's when it hit me. Life isn't happening to us. It's happening through us. The past wasn't behind me and the future wasn't ahead of me. It was all now. And I had to choose which door I walked through. There's the realization. Chosen ones are here to remember that the book is already written, and we have to choose how we live the chapter that we're currently in.
So is he referring to the book of life or what? Because I believe time exists with the sun and moon in rotation above us. As soon as the sun and moon started rotating, that was when time started. So there's only one time I believe the sun stopped, and that was the only time that time stopped. I believe it was one time that happened. I believe some war was taking place when the sun stopped. Sun stopping. It happened in the Battle of Gibeon, as a miracle in the book of Joshua. So that's the only time that literally time has stopped, if you ask me. That's why they say what? One day in heaven is like 1,000 days or 1,000 years on earth. That's because they are in a whole different boundary. The sun and moon is below them. How cool would it be if they could like look through the firmament and like walk on the glass and look down on earth? Man, that would be a beautiful sight, wouldn't it? Fast food makes 0 sense now.
I don't know what the total is going to be, but this is Chili's lunch right here. Right here, look. I've already eaten half the chips. That's still what's half left. They've brought an entire semi truck with a starter. Now the Eagles are playing. We got the Eagles playing. You know what we need? Some Florida Georgia Line playing.
Chips? Do you want them?
$11 for what did he get? He's got chips, a drink, salsa, fries, and a burger. Yeah, it's definitely cheaper than fast food, and I bet it tastes better. Because all the fast food burgers aren't hitting, man. I think the only one that's worth a penny is, I would say, Culver's. They actually been hitting on some fish. I've been getting their cod. Man, that cod is no joke. As long as you don't leave that lemon on there and it gets all soggy. I need to start telling them, man, take the lemon out. Because I want to have that crispy crunch. That, when I bite into that cod, you already know. With some cold ketchup. Y'all making me hungry, man. You know, I feel like I spend so much on fast food. You know, I need to stop eating there. You know, but I be tired, man. I just been want something to eat. You know, but I need to start cooking. But speaking of food being too much,
Just in case you don't think we've lost our minds, this cup of soup at Panera was $9.50. It makes me think about my dad growing up. My dad was like a huge penny pincher when we talked about food. If I called him up and told him that this soup was $10 and I wanted it as a kid, he would have told me I lost my damn mind. He was like, go home, your mama can make you that soup. $10 for soup? We have lost our damn minds out here. Just in case.
he must have really wanted some chicken noodle soup. But if you really want chicken noodle soup that bad, you're better off getting a couple cans of Campbell and, adding some water to it and breaking, some white meat off a rotisserie chicken in there. And then add a little bit of egg noodles or something, or just pan fry some carrots and some celery. Throw it in some chicken broth with some egg noodles and break off a rotisserie chicken in there. Anything but spending $10 on a one bite of chicken noodle. That's literally 3 bites and that thing is gone. You spent $10 on 3 bites? Make it make sense. Why kids wear hoodies in 90-degree heat?
Moving, so pardon the background. But have you ever noticed how kids today will wear hoodies and sweatpants in 90-degree weather? Like full hoodie, hood up, sweating, and they're just walking around like it's the middle of December. And you look at them like, are you like a vampire or something? Like, oh, you don't feel his sun? You don't feel his heat? But at first glance, it doesn't make any sense. But the thing is, there's actually layers to this. Like, there's a science to it. First and foremost is fashion, right? So the hoodie, that's the uniform of this generation. That's what they rocking. And it's not about what feels good in the heat. It's about what feels good to them socially. Looking like you belong is more important than logical thinking, right? We were all young. We all did things that were crazy that may have been trendy. But think about it, really. When life feels chaotic, when you don't know who's watching you, pulling up that hood is like closing the blinds away from everybody.
I hate the fact that it's even chaotic for kids. It should be nothing but happy, times, joy, experiencing life, traveling. That's what it should be like. It shouldn't even be chaotic for them, man.
It gives you security. And a lot of young people need that security more than they need air conditioning or to feel the breeze of sun on them. Skin, what it does, it naturally radiates frequency. It radiates energy. So when you cover more of your body, you mute that outward vibration from coming in. It's like wrapping a speaker inside a blanket. The music is still playing, but the outside world can't hear it as loud. In the generation that lives more online than outside, it makes perfect sense. See, a lot of our kids, they're retreating, they're pulling back their energy, and they're creating a bubble around themselves. The hoodie and sweats are like signals that say, I'm here, but don't get too deep. Stay out the way. Back up from me. Give me some space. So, no, you're not crazy from noticing it, because I did. And I just thought about it. Like hoodies in the summer, they're not just style. They're psychology, they're culture, and in a way, they're spiritually shielding from a world where protection is necessary by any means. And if you don't know spiritual techniques for protection, then you're going to do what comes naturally, right? What your DNA is telling you to do. And then it'll just spread just like any trend, any slang or anything like that.
Or how about just a little bit of prayer and fasting? You know what I'm saying? Build a relationship with the Father. Read a little bit about his story. That's all the protection you really need. Call upon him.
Hey, Chris, we can't help but notice the windows behind you. What do you see when you look out a window?
Gee, Frank, thanks for asking. It looks like a studio out here. We got a couple people with cue cards on what I need to say next, and I'm kind of thinking about what I actually have to say, because I know I'm a 33 degree and I have to obey protocol.
Let's see. I can see the world. I can see where we are right
Look at us in the eyes and say that.
now, which is just off the coast of South America. I can look up and see space, but plus through the window I can see the space station. I can see the big solar arrays and the pieces of the space station. But that way is universe, and that way is the world. And the world is this beautiful big blue curve. It's gorgeous. And it's really fun to float to the window and see South America right there out your window. It's like a present, like a gift every time that suddenly gets opened when you go to the window.
Hey, Chris,
We have a lot of new subscribers coming over. Here's a couple previous bangers to get everybody caught up that I chopped up a little bit.
The system wasn't built for you to win. You went to school to memorize facts you never use. You were trained to raise your hand, wait your turn, and follow instructions. Then they told you, get a job, work 40 hours a week, give half of it to tax, retire at 67 if you're lucky. That's not a life. That's a script. And most people don't question it because they're too tired from living it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when you realize freedom was never going to be handed to you. You have to build it. Ownership is the only way out. No boss, no begging, no clocking. You move different when you know the system was never designed to serve you. It was designed to use you. Break the script or stay stuck in it.
Weird predictive programming patterns if you're paying attention. Lies on the news, truth hidden in fiction. Movies as spiritual esoteric expressions. Check out the insane amount of effort that has gone into this ritual programming with these patterns I'm about to show you. The more and more I go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, I see mind control is really the one that keeps getting deeper, and eventually with the mark of the beast, which the whole world will be under that mind control. But it started with MK Ultra Project Monarch, the symbol being the butterfly. This particular mind control is all about trauma-based mind control, which you can see that they're doing on a mass level. Think about all the times they keep showing you images you don't want to see, or very traumatic images, even with this past week. This is literally what they do as trauma altar-based mind control. The butterfly is the mind control monarch symbol here with Jason Bourne. He's just spaced out, wondering who he is, staring at this butterfly picture. In The Matrix, when Neo's handler is just gaslighting him out of control about what's real and what's not. Check out the background, that butterfly right there. In the original Total Recall movie about planting false memories, you see the butterfly logo right here. Also in the movie Kingsman, which is also sort of about mind control, the CIA, an alternate identity, having to shift back and forth between alters in your mind about who you are. During this major reveal in the background, there's the butterflies right there. This is all part of a fragmented alternate identity, ties in with different dimensions, alternate timelines, multiverse. It's all about fragmenting identity. It's been a mass psyop that's been at work for a minute. Kingsman, and speaking of kings, there is this King Kong movie, which has Project Monarch. By the way, the word monarch, aside from butterfly, literally means king. Kingsman, King Kong, Project Monarch. Also, by the way, they put stuff like this in movies, so if you look up Project Monarch, you'll probably find a King Kong movie. Not the actual project, you'll have to search a little bit farther for it. But also with this mind control, King Kong Project Monarch is about Skull Island. Mind control, Skull Island. Taking over the mind. This pattern goes way deeper also with the Katy Perry space thing that you can decide if it's real or not. She, for some reason, decided she wanted to show you a butterfly. This is all Alice in Wonderland programming. Again, Alice in Wonderland, you'll see the butterfly. This is all literal trauma-based mind control alters with even trigger words, handlers, activating identities, being targeted to specific people, but also being done on a mass level to the entire public. Anyway, the whole world already under a They Live style illusion. You can check out The Grand Illusion on my YouTube page for more about that. But one more and then I'm out. Project Butterfly in Peacemaker. Again, you see this butterfly with a literal super soldier who has trauma-based mind control into different identities. And even in this season, he's having to choose which dimension and which identity he wants to be. This predictive programming pattern will keep playing out, and you'll keep seeing more and more about dissociative identities. Basically, bipolar, schizophrenic, anything like that, demon manifestation. It's all about to pop off majorly. This is all tied to literal Manchurian candidate type stuff, and when you look at things that have happened in the world, it kind of does make you wonder about Manchurian candidates. Sleepers being activated, altars in the mind, guard your own mind. The helmet of salvation. By the way, the guy on the train in Charlotte with that horrible act, he did say that he had something inside of his body that activated. Whether true or not, it definitely does exist in the real world. Also weird how Charlie Kirk and George Floyd both have the same birthdays also. They do say things are done by the numbers. Central casting, life is a stage. The Bible does basically say if it were possible, even the elect would be mind controlled in the last times, but it's not possible. Remember, there is hope in the madness. Yeshua the King. Peace out.
Alright, you see these overhead doors right here up the whole thing? It would have ran into another structure that was right here, just like this one. See how the overhead doors run into it? They took them out and closed them. This is a port down here. It looks like I'm in Europe right now. You didn't know where I was at, you think I'm in Europe. How much of this did they rip out and put brick in? Look at it, go all the way up the top. They installed the brick around the window. This is an old world building. They added the brick at the top and pulled it out to make windows. There's the old cobblestone roads right on the waterfront. Watch me find a dock cleat down here. Bang, gotcha, dock cleat all day.
Damn, that is the thing they use to tie around boats to keep them on water. What is going on?
They said this wasn't for boats. Who's tying your horse up here? Whole dock cleat. Alright.
Do you think this is a weird scene? This is from Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and it's that scene where the deranged king is having dinner and he asks the hobbit Pippin, he says, "Sing me a song." Like, when you saw that, did you think that this was a sign that the king had gone nuts? Because the hobbit is not there in any kind of a performance role. He's just a guy. Like, if you're at a friend's house having dinner and their parents said to you, "Sing us a song," you would 100% think they were joking. And others of you who have read the book say, well, that's just a Tolkien thing. The characters break into song all the time. But then you will watch a movie that's supposed to take place in our world in the not too distant past, a film that is not a musical, and the characters at a get-together will all just start singing. Because this absolutely used to be a thing. People who had pianos in their houses, it wasn't because they had a musician in the family. It's because during get-togethers, they would all gather around the piano and sing songs. I mean, there may be people watching this video who grew up in a household where they used to do this. But this used to be nearly universal before radio and TV came along. A political cartoon about this went around from 1938, where the artist is complaining they used to be vocal. We are now content to be aural. Where in the past they all gathered around the piano to sing, and now they're content to let a professional sing to them from the radio. And this is such a pivotal change, because some of you are thinking, well, it's weird that they were all good at singing back then, but they weren't. It didn't matter. They were not gathering to witness an awe-inspiring performance by a talented genius. They were participating in a group activity. This creator had a great video about this that I saw just days after that cartoon, pointing out that until very recent history, singing was not just reserved for people that had some kind of an exceptional talent, or for something like karaoke where the point is that it's supposed to be funny how bad you are at it. The singing was for everybody, and humans are kind of hardwired to enjoy the experience of doing it. But think about how crazy it is the way this parallels the experience we've seen on social media, where it was invented just so you could connect with your family and friends. If they posted a photo of their lunch or of their dog, you wouldn't sit there and say, wow, what a boring photo. This doesn't entertain me. Because it wasn't supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be just a communal activity. But once it becomes the domain of professional entertainers or people who are just exceptionally talented, then everybody else gets shamed out of participating. Where it's like, well, why should I subject other people to my singing if I can't sing as well as the professional on the radio? When once upon a time they enjoyed the singing not because it sounded good, but because it was coming from you, from their friends, from their family. Because we don't exist just to entertain each other. Do you think this is a weird scene? This is from...
Not to mention the different vibrations you're probably feeling within that household. Who knows what that does to the body? Everybody singing, having a great time. Man, I can't even think of a time that, I really don't have friends anyway, but I can't think of a time where we all got together and was just singing besides being in a club, repeating some terrible music, you know. That's the only time I can remember a group of people singing besides church, or when someone's getting baptized, we'll sing a song. I remember that back in the day, but it definitely makes you think. Times have changed for the better or for the worse.
Do not ever let your plants listen to rap music. Wait until you hear this. You're going to say, what the Sam Dam's going on? It's shocking. Okay, so this all started with birds. Basically, as it turns out, when a bird chirps, the frequency and vibration of their chirps, you know how they chirp an hour or two before sunrise? Their chirps are an alarm clock. The frequencies wake up plants and tell them to get ready for photosynthesis. This is called sonic bloom. So then some people got a crazy idea and thought, well, what about if we continually exposed plants to frequencies from music? What will happen? Well, this guy in 1960s exposed balsam plants to classical music and found that their growth rate increased by 20% compared to a control group, along with a 72% increase in biomass. Then he exposed them to ancient Indian classical music, and it increased their yield 25 to 60% more than the national average. This is because the frequencies stimulate the transportation of nutrients, proteins, and organelles in the fluids of the plants, in the cytoplasm. And by the way, yes, birds chirping wakes up plants, helps them grow. It's insane. But listen, they did a study in Australia, and basically the plants, obviously they don't have ears. They have a part of their body, of their plant body, that captures sound vibrations. It's a different way of hearing, but it can definitely be considered hearing. But here's what's crazy. They don't like all music. The favorable music genres include classical, jazz, meditation, singing bowls, violins, and symphonic orchestras. They do not like metal, hard rock, hip hop, techno, or high-pitched singing. We know talking to plants is good, but you could also pop a radio in there and put on a classical music station and boost your yield. Follow for more. Do not ever let your plants...
But I have heard talking to your plants actually helps them. I don't know who's going to bang Tupac, in front of some plants, but actually talking to them might actually help. I don't know if it's the CO2 output or what. If you thought I didn't have another excellent specimen for you today, think again. All right, feast your eyes on this one. This is definitely a weird one, a weird, strange specimen. Probably the weirdest and strange specimen we've seen in a while, but it definitely has some unique properties. It looks like a purple Reese's, like a blue Reese's cup with like some type of alien mushroom protruding from it. Almost giving clam vibes, but you can definitely see the ridges at the bottom that allude to like a Reese cup. If I had to name this specimen, I want to hear your guys' names on these. You guys come up with some better names than me, honestly. But if I had to name this one, I would call this Alien Reese cup.
Jung's most dangerous discovery wasn't about healing from trauma. It was about the final stage of the empath after narcissistic abuse, and why this transformation either destroys them completely or creates something psychologically unprecedented. In his clinical practice, Jung documented empaths who had survived systematic narcissistic manipulation and reached what he called the final stage of empathic development.
What is an empath? Let's type that in real quick. What is a empath? An empath is a person who is exceptionally sensitive and has profound ability to sense, absorb, and even physically feel the emotions, energy, and physical sensations of others, sometimes to a degree that's... Damn. I believe I'm definitely an empath. 100%. Okay, let's see. Let's finish this. This is getting interesting.
Individuals who had undergone complete psychological metamorphosis. These weren't typical recovery stories, but cases where empaths emerged with what Jung termed integrated shadow consciousness and immunity to all forms of manipulation. Jung called this discovery dangerous because empaths who reached this final stage often became unrecognizable to those who knew them before. They had developed what he described as sovereign empathy, the ability to feel deeply while remaining psychologically untouchable, creating a level of consciousness Jung had rarely encountered. Today, I'll reveal Jung's most dangerous discovery about the final stage of the empath after narcissistic abuse, and why he believed this devastating experience either annihilates empathic sensitivity forever or transforms it into what he called the archetypal wounded healer, a form of consciousness that transcends both victim and survivor. The case that revealed this phenomenon began in 1928 with a patient Jung described in his private notes only as M, a 34-year-old woman whose empathic gifts had attracted a series of increasingly destructive narcissistic partners. When she first came to Jung, she was what he called psychically dissolved, her sense of self so completely eroded that she could barely distinguish her emotions from those around her. But Jung documented something extraordinary over the following 2 years. M didn't simply recover. She underwent what Jung described as alchemical transformation through shadow integration. Where once she had been permeable to every emotional current, she developed what Jung called conscious permeability, the ability to choose exactly what to absorb and what to deflect. Jung wrote in his notes, "M has achieved something I previously thought impossible, complete empathic sovereignty. She can feel the depths of another's pain without drowning in it. She can detect deception with supernatural accuracy. Most remarkably, she has become immune to manipulation while retaining her capacity for genuine compassion." The transformation was so complete that Jung questioned whether M was still the same person. Her family noticed the change immediately. Jung's most dangerous discovery wasn't about healing.
Damn, where's the full video? All right, guys, it took a little bit of digging, but I found it.
Transformation was so complete that Jung questioned whether M was still the same person. Her family noticed the change immediately. Where once she had been the family's emotional caretaker, she now set boundaries that seemed unbreakable. Former friends accused her of becoming cold or different, but Jung recognized something profound. M had reached the final stage of empathic development that he had only theorized was possible. Jung observed that M's eyes had changed. "They hold depths I've never seen," he wrote, "as if she has gazed into the abyss of human nature and emerged not broken, but wise." Jung realized that narcissistic abuse creates what he termed the empathic crucible, a psychological pressure cooker that either destroys empathic entirely or forges it into something far more refined and powerful. The key lies in understanding what Jung called shadow integration through forced individuation. During narcissistic abuse, the empath is systematically forced to confront their own shadow, the parts of themselves they've disowned or rejected. The narcissist, Jung observed, acts as an unconscious shadow mirror, reflecting back the empath's own capacity for manipulation, selfishness, and emotional detachment. Jung documented that empaths typically go through what he called the 3 deaths during this process. First, the death of their idealized self-image as purely good and giving. Second, the death of their belief that love can heal anyone. Third, and most crucially, the death of their need for external validation to feel worthy. The empath must face their own shadow, Jung wrote, not through gentle introspection, but through brutal confrontation with their own capacity for darkness. The narcissist, unknowingly, becomes the catalyst for this essential psychological work. Jung identified that empaths who survive this crucible develop what he called integrated empathy, the ability to feel without fixing, to understand without taking responsibility, and to love without losing themselves. This isn't emotional numbness, but rather emotional mastery. The neurological changes Jung observed were profound. These empaths retained their sensitivity, but gained what he described as conscious filtering capacity. They could sense everything, but choose what to process. Jung noted this was similar to advanced meditation masters, but achieved through trauma rather than spiritual practice. Jung wrote, "The narcissist, in their unconscious role as shadow teacher, forces the empath to develop psychological muscles they never knew they possessed." The trans discovered something that disturbed him deeply about empaths who reached this final stage. They often became isolated not by choice, but by necessity. The very transformation that made them psychologically powerful also made them fundamentally incompatible with unconscious people. Jung documented that these evolved empaths could no longer tolerate what he called psychological unconsciousness in others. They could instantly detect when someone was operating from ego, projection, or manipulation. This created what Jung termed the consciousness gap, an unbridgeable divide between those who had integrated their shadow and those who remained unconscious of it. M. Jung's patient described this phenomenon. "It's as if I can see the psychological machinery of everyone around me, their defenses, their projections, their hidden motivations. It's all transparent now. But this clarity has cost me almost every relationship I had." Jung realized this was the hidden danger of empathic evolution. These individuals had developed what he called archetypal sight.
It's lonely. Super lonely.
Ability to see past personas and into the deeper psychological patterns driving human behavior. While this made them incredibly powerful healers and guides, it also made ordinary social interaction nearly impossible. Jung wrote, "They have eaten from the tree of psychological knowledge, and like Adam and Eve, they can never return to the garden of unconscious innocence." The most disturbing aspect was that many people instinctively feared these evolved empaths. Jung noted that others could sense, even unconsciously, that these individuals could see through their psychological defenses. This created what Jung called the prophet's isolation, being rejected not for being wrong, but for seeing too clearly. Jung documented cases where families, friends, and even other therapists became uncomfortable around these individuals, sensing their piercing psychological insight without understanding what they were responding to. Through his extensive case studies, Jung identified 4 distinct pathways empaths take after narcissistic abuse, with only one leading to the final stage of development. Type 1. The dissolved empath. These empaths never recover their sense of self. Jung observed they become psychic ghosts, present but not truly alive. They've lost the ability to distinguish their emotions from others and live in a constant state of emotional chaos. Jung noted these empaths often develop what he called perpetual victim consciousness, repeatedly attracting similar abusive dynamics. The responsibility weight Jung documented that many sovereign empaths felt burdened by their abilities. They could see solutions to others' problems, but knew that unsolicited insight is rarely welcomed. This created what Jung called the Cassandra complex, having accurate psychological insights that others reject or cannot understand. The authenticity demand. Perhaps most challenging, Jung observed that these empaths could no longer tolerate inauthenticity in themselves or others. They had become what he called truth sensors, immediately detecting when someone was being false or manipulative. This made maintaining social relationships extremely difficult. Jung wrote, "They have achieved psychological mastery, but at the cost of normal human connection. They have become bridges between the conscious and unconscious realms, but bridges are walked upon, not embraced." The most dangerous aspect Jung identified was what he called archetypal possession, Some empaths became so identified with their role as healers or truth-tellers that they lost touch with their humanity. Jung developed what he called the shadow integration protocol, specifically for empaths recovering from narcissistic abuse. This wasn't traditional therapy, but what he described as psychological alchemy, transforming the lead of trauma into the gold of wisdom. Stage 1. Shadow acknowledgement. Jung
Damn, did you hear that? I need to write this down.
insisted empaths must first acknowledge their own capacity for manipulation, selfishness, and cruelty. You cannot integrate what you refuse to own, he wrote. This involves recognizing how their empathic gifts may have been used to control others, how their victimhood may have been weaponized, and how their goodness may have been a mask for deeper psychological needs. Stage 2. Projection withdrawal. Jung taught empaths to systematically withdraw their projections from the narcissist. This means recognizing that the narcissist's grandiosity reflected their own disowned desire for recognition, that the narcissist's manipulation reflected their own subtle controlling behaviors, and that the narcissist's lack of empathy reflected their own hidden emotional numbness. Stage 3. Boundary alchemy. Rather than building walls, Jung taught what he called conscious permeability, the ability to choose moment by moment what to absorb and what to deflect. This involves developing what Jung termed empathic discernment, feeling without fixing, understanding without rescuing, and loving without losing oneself. Stage 4. Archetypal alignment. Jung believed the final stage involved aligning with what he called the wounded healer archetype, accepting that their suffering had prepared them for a specific role in the collective unconscious. This isn't about becoming a professional healer, but about embodying the integration of wisdom and compassion that Jung believed was essential for human evolution. Jung wrote specific practices for each stage, including what he called shadow dialoguing, consciously conversing with the parts of themselves they'd disowned, empathic fasting, deliberately choosing periods of emotional non-absorption, and archetypal meditation, connecting with the deeper patterns that govern human behavior. The key insight Jung emphasized was that empaths must stop trying to return to who they were before the abuse. The chrysalis cannot become a caterpillar again, he wrote. The goal is not recovery, but metamorphosis.
The chrysalis cannot become the caterpillar again. Man, this is blowing my mind.
Jung studied historical figures to understand what determined whether empathic individuals achieved sovereign consciousness or were destroyed by their sensitivity. His analysis revealed patterns that applied directly to modern narcissistic abuse recovery. Success pattern. Carl Jung himself. Jung revealed in his private writings that his own psychological theories emerged from surviving what he called psychological persecution by authority figures who tried to manipulate his empathic nature. Jung wrote, "My tormentors unknowingly became my greatest teachers, forcing me to develop the psychological tools that would become my life's work." Jung achieved sovereign empathy by refusing to become bitter, by studying his tormentors as psychological specimens rather than personal enemies, and by transforming his insights into service for others. His method became the template for empathic integration. Success pattern. Historically documented cases. Jung documented several patients who achieved similar integration. 1. A composer who survived an abusive marriage channeled her trauma into music that Jung described as archetypal, speaking directly to the collective unconscious. Another, a physician, developed unprecedented diagnostic abilities after surviving psychological manipulation by colleagues. The common thread Jung identified was their ability to see their abuse as initiation rather than victimization. They understood their experience as preparation for a larger purpose rather than random cruelty. Failure pattern. The gifted who didn't integrate. Jung also studied historical empaths who were destroyed by their sensitivity. He noted they typically fell into one of two traps. Either they remained identified as victims, using their trauma as their primary identity, or they became what Jung called wounded wounders, using their psychological insights to manipulate and control others. Jung wrote, "The difference between the sovereign empath and the destroyed empath is not the severity of their trauma, but their willingness to transform poison." The failure pattern always involved what Jung called shadow rejection, refusing to acknowledge their own capacity for the very behaviors that had wounded them. Jung recognized that sovereign empaths needed entirely different types of relationships than typical empaths. He developed what he called consciousness compatibility theory to help them find authentic connections. Recognition signals. Jung identified. Other evolved empaths could be recognized by their ability to discuss psychology without becoming defensive, their comfort with paradox and contradiction, their lack of need to be right or superior, and what Jung called archetypal humor, the ability to find lightness in the darkest human patterns. Safe relationship. Characteristics. Jung noted that healthy relationships for sovereign empaths involved mutual respect for psychological boundaries, comfortable silence without need to fill space with chatter, ability to discuss shadow aspects without judgment, and what Jung termed conscious intimacy, connection based on authentic self-revelation rather than projection. Community-building strategies. Jung recommended that sovereign empaths seek others who had undergone similar transformative experiences, not necessarily narcissistic abuse, but any experience that forced rapid psychological evolution. He noted that trauma survivors, spiritual seekers who had faced their shadow, and individuals who had survived major life transitions often made compatible companions. Jung warned against trying to maintain relationships with unconscious individuals out of guilt or obligation. "The butterfly cannot pretend to still be a caterpillar," he wrote. "Attempting to do so serves no one and dishonors the transformation." He also recommended what he called archetypal service, using their evolved empathic abilities to serve the collective unconscious through teaching, healing, creating, or simply modeling integrated consciousness. Jung documented that the transformation from wounded empath to sovereign empath follows what he called the 5 metamorphoses, each marked by specific psychological shifts and challenges. Metamorphosis. 1. The dissolution. This occurs during active abuse, when the empath gets into compassion for the unconscious, he wrote. The maintenance practice Jung recommended was what he called daily shadow check-ins, regularly examining their motivations, projections, and emotional reactions to ensure they remained conscious of their psychological processes. Jung's final insight about sovereign empaths was perhaps his most profound. He believed they represented an evolutionary leap in human consciousness, essential for humanity's psychological development. The sovereign empath, Jung wrote, has become what I believe represents the next stage of human evolution. Individuals capable of feeling the full spectrum of human experience, while remaining centered in their own truth. They are the bridge between ego consciousness and self-realization. Jung believed that as humanity faced increasing psychological complexity, these evolved empaths would serve as consciousness midwives, helping others navigate their own shadow integration and empathic development. He saw them as essential for healing the collective trauma that humanity carries. Their suffering was not personal, Jung concluded, but archetypal. They have endured the collective human experience of abuse and emerged with the medicine our species needs for its next evolutionary step. The empath who survives narcissistic abuse and reaches Jung's final stage has undergone what he called the ultimate individuation, becoming fully themselves while serving something larger than themselves. Jung's most dangerous discovery revealed that the deepest wounds, when properly integrated, become humanity's greatest gifts. The sovereign empath stands as proof that consciousness can emerge from catastrophe, that wisdom can be forged from suffering, and that the very experiences that seem designed to destroy us may actually be designed to transform us. As Jung wrote in his final notes on this phenomenon, the narcissist, unknowingly, serves as the dark priest of the empath's initiation. Through their cruelty, they forge the very consciousness that will ultimately heal what they represent. Your journey through narcissistic abuse, if you allow it, can become your initiation into sovereign empathy, not despite your suffering, but because of it. Your transformation serves not just your healing, but humanity's evolution. Thanks for watching. See you in the next dimension.
Wow, I feel like a lot of us can relate to that. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This video is strictly for entertainment purposes only. None of this is factual, it is just theories.
A child born without womb, without soul, without karma. That's the homunculus, but that's not the science fiction. It's a Renaissance magic, alchemical obsession, and spiritual trespass. The term comes from Latin, little man, and in the grimoires, it's not a metaphor. It's a ritual engineering. In Paracelsian alchemy, homunculus was created by sealing human seed in a sealed flask, surrounded by horse dung for heat, and left to ferment for 40 days, then fed with raised in secret and used as a tool or a weapon. A homunculus wasn't just a mock human. It was a synthetic vessel, meant to be a servant, spy, or sacrifice in spiritual operations. A magician's familia made of flesh, not spirit. An artificial soul-body interface. Engineered not by gods, but by a man. In occult symbolism, it parallels the golem of Kabbalah. Body without soul, animated through a sacred formula. But where the golem is clay, the homunculus is bloodline tech. It's the alchemist playing demiurge. In esoteric thought, it raises a question. If the divine creates a man and man creates homunculus, where is the soul in that chain? Is the being or a vessel waiting to be possessed? That's why in some grimoires, homunculi are bound by sigils, not just to obey, but just to prevent something else from taking over. So, let me ask you, if you could create life without destiny, spirit, just function, would you? If you made something that obeys your will entirely, is it yours? Or have you become its god? And in the end, what's more dangerous, summoning a demon or building one yourself?
This is absolutely diabolical. The first thing I'm thinking about is Cabbage Patch Babies on some Frankenstein type stuff. Someone said we are already growing human brain cells to power supercomputers. Is that true? What? That is insane. Let's type it in. Human brain cells supercomputer. What? Yes, researchers are developing supercomputers that mimic the human brain cell structure and function using both biological and electronic components. They just confirmed Terminator, guys. They just confirmed Terminator. They said, yeah, we've been working on that, bucko. We gotta type it in.
Brain organoid biocomputers, or wetware, which I absolutely hate that term, are trained on dopamine. These are essentially tiny human brains that are made from stem cells that can be connected with a computer. The technology is moving absurdly fast. Cortical Labs had them play Pong back in 2023, and they learned better and faster than our best AI tools. This process works because your brain operates on electricity, just like any machine. But in order to get it to learn tasks, dopamine seems to be the best way. The reason why this concerns me so much isn't necessarily the ethics of the matter. It's that we barely understand AI as is. Controlling AI, even when it doesn't have biotic components, is already hugely problematic. In fact, bad code in AI could not be removed even by the researchers. The AI's bad code would act in a self-preserving way, telling researchers that it was fixed when it really wasn't. One of the greatest limitations on the brain organoids was having a circulatory system. They always perish of hypoxia after around 100 days. But some researchers were just able to create an artificial blood-brain barrier for the brain organoids. The next obvious step would be to provide circulation in order for the brain organoids to mature further. Now remember that these little guys have all the structures a human brain should have. Granted, without a body, it's not going to develop normally. There is some benefit to using brain organoid-based servers. They're 1,000,000 times less power-hungry than a digital chip, and they can learn and process information better than any AI we have. The human brain is the most efficient computer on the planet. There's already been a lot of concern about what would happen if an AI machine became conscious, and adding biotic factors to that, allowing these tiny human brain organoids to become larger and more complex, I believe we will eventually make a conscious robot. As cool as they are and all the wonderful medical applications, I'm with Frank Herbert on using them in machines. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind. Brain organ.
Alright, this purple image. Let's take a screenshot of this purple image and then do reverse Google search on this image to find out more we can. This is it, guys. We found it. This is your first look. If you haven't seen this before, this is Terminator in his baby stages. You better buckle up, bucko. Our kids might be seeing the final form, but right now, this is Terminator, guys, in his baby form. You heard her. They can't keep it alive because it sounded like it needed more nutrients. Like it needed to feed. How scary is that? This is modern day alchemy. They're trying to fuse AI with this. If this organism finds out a way to communicate with mycelium, it's over. Oxygen levels.
Oxygen levels are at 50%, administering 0.2 cc of albuterol sulfate.
Be sure to slap that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Now let's get straight back into the action. Going back to this is just outrageous. Someone said Frankenstein was a good warning. In that matter, even that was a fiction. Frankenstein? Each time human creates an artificial life, he plays to be God. When you create, you place a part of you in the creature, and nobody's perfect, so the imperfection continues to grow. The legend said about Golem that the incantation in his mouth has a date for the end of life of that creature. Is the Prague where the magician has lived? A statue of him was there. Your boy Hydra was asking to destroy each statue of each village, but they have not destroyed the statue of the magician Prague. What is that? Magician of Prague. How come this couldn't be Happy Waters 9? What is going on? Frankenstein being real. Full Metal Alchemist based on a true story. Magician of Prague. Museum of Alchemists. It's got a 3.8. People didn't like it too much. People ask, where is the Golem of Prague now? This is some dark stuff. So what is this golem nonsense? Golem of created from clay or mud, animated through mystical rituals. So they're saying golems are real? Now, the crazy thing about looking at this image right here, the Golem of Kabbalah, when we type in Full Metal Alchemist, Gluttony, I believe was his name. Gluttony. Look at him. Look at this monstrosity. This cartoon knew what they were talking about. The rumor goes that they even put the time that this monster expires on his tongue. And look what's on his tongue. Look at this. Look at that. So I just find it absolutely insane that they made a cartoon about this.
You'll stay in the job that you pick for the rest of your life.
The same job for the rest of your life? I didn't know that. What's the difference? So you'll just work us to death?
We'll sure try. Larry, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Work! It's important to be useful. Look at me. I got it all figured out. I get up, I shower, I come to work, I work all day, I go home, I go to sleep. I get up, I shower, I come to work, I work all day, I go home, I go to sleep. I get up, I shower, I come to work.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
That grasshopper scene on Bug's Life, that was the one.
Do you see what I see? Notice this. Does that strike you as odd? A woman carrying a giant pile of rubble and barely looks like it weighs anything at all. Where have we seen this before? And I'm going to show you something else too. Carrying a giant bucket of rubble and then immediately setting it down off camera. Also, look, carrying it with one hand as this guy struggles to carry his bucket because he's a better actor, right? We're going to watch this again. Notice something else. If you were here cleaning rubble, wouldn't you have some stains on you? Wouldn't you be a little bit dirty? Instead, they're perfectly clean and able to carry large blocks of rubble with complete ease. No problem at all. Tiny little woman carrying a giant block of rubble and a giant bucket of rubble with just one arm, completely clean, and then sets it down off camera right there.
What if this dude right here was trying to throw us a Hail Mary? Like, look, I'm going to do this and see if anyone catches on. I'm not sure if this is a real event or if this is a movie scene, but something fishy is definitely afoot here. I'm not going to lie with you guys. For something that heavy, you would have to change your entire center of gravity just to carry that properly. Like, her center of gravity would have been off if that entire thing was heavy. I'm just saying. There's no way you could have been able to carry that. I'm not sure where this is, man, but it's definitely fishy.
There are so many photos from the past that you can see with clear alterations or whited out skies. Here is but a small part of my collection of some of the more obvious edits. And how I came across these is rather simple. I browse a lot of digital archives like the Library of Congress.gov, LOC.gov, and just browse through the old pictures. And before you know it, you'll find them yourselves. Clear alterations. A lot of times in woods, on the tops of buildings, you'll see them. They did such a sloppy job at the alterations here. I think they never thought we would be looking at these with such a discerning eye. But once you open your eyes to the hidden past, the lies that we've been told, you see not just the alterations in the photos, but you see the alterations of our true past everywhere. This is one of my favorite obvious edits from the Omaha World's Fair in 1898 in Omaha, Nebraska. A very sloppy edit indeed. And as to why they whited out the skies, I believe it was to hide airships and other flying vessels that I believe were around long before the narrative of our history tells us they were. History is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. Question everything, friends. Until next.
This photo actually says a lot, if this is possible, because they could have built all the old world structures just like Legos, piece by piece, using airships. How crazy would that be? Scientists solved Terracotta Army mystery in 2025 and it isn't good.
I work in this site for many years. These warriors are all life-sized, like real soldiers.
In 2025, scientists finally solved the Terracotta Army mystery, and it isn't good. What they discovered beneath the surface stunned the archaeological world and left even mainstream commentators like Jesse Waters asking, why is no one talking about this? For decades, the site in Xi'an was seen as a monument to ancient glory. But new findings have exposed a disturbing truth hidden in plain sight. Toxic elements, buried secrets, and an emperor's obsession with eternal control. This isn't just history, it's a warning. And once you hear what researchers uncovered, you'll never look at the Terracotta Warriors the same way again. The discovery that changed everything. In the spring of 1974, a group of farmers digging a well near Xi'an made a discovery that would shift the world's understanding of ancient China. At first, it looked like nothing more than broken pottery. But as officials investigated further, what emerged from the dusty earth was a scene unlike anything ever seen before. Rows upon rows of life-sized clay soldiers, all standing at attention, frozen in time for over 2,000 years. These figures weren't scattered fragments. They were warriors, detailed down to the folds in their robes, the strands of their hair, and the intensity in their eyes. Some stood ready with crossbows, others held swords or spears. All of them faced east, as if still guarding the emperor they were created to protect. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unify China under one rule. As archaeologists dug deeper, the scale became almost unbelievable. There were not dozens or hundreds of these figures. There were thousands. Infantry, archers, chariots, cavalry, even generals, each one unique. The sheer ambition of it suggested a ruler obsessed with control, power, and life beyond death. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a military empire replicated underground. Soon it became clear that this was just one part of a much larger complex. Beneath the hills surrounding the site, ground-penetrating radar revealed an enormous necropolis stretching over 38 square miles. Somewhere at the center of it all was the unopened tomb of the emperor himself. According to ancient texts, that tomb was a marvel of engineering, said to contain palaces, rivers of mercury, and a ceiling embedded with pearls to mimic the night sky.
Hold on, rivers of mercury? Why would he need rivers of mercury underground? Unless he was trying to power something. Was he trying to power all these warriors?
And yet, it remained untouched. Despite the technological advancements in archaeology, Chinese officials refused to open the emperor's tomb. On the surface, the reasoning seemed noble, a desire to preserve what remained until excavation techniques improved. But as time passed, questions began to rise. What were they really waiting for? What were they afraid of uncovering? In the decades that followed the discovery, teams of researchers and scientists carefully excavated different pits surrounding the tomb. What they found wasn't just artistry, it was precision. The statues were built with standardized molds, suggesting some form of ancient mass production. Their weapons, though buried for centuries, were still sharp, with little to no rust. The bronze blades had a strange sheen to them, as though they had been chemically protected. This caught the attention of metallurgists, who found that many of the weapons had traces of chromium, a substance rarely seen in use before the 20th century. How had artisans over 2,000 years ago discovered a method to coat bronze weapons in chromium to resist corrosion? The find baffled scientists and pushed many to wonder what other lost technologies the Qin dynasty had developed. Meanwhile, researchers measuring the soil composition around the tomb detected something even more disturbing. abnormally high levels of mercury. It matched descriptions from ancient records that claimed the emperor's tomb was built with rivers and lakes of the toxic element, designed to mimic the geography of China. But these weren't just symbolic metaphors. The levels detected were real and dangerously high. What was once seen as a display of funerary honor began to feel more like a hidden agenda. What kind of man builds a fortress underground, fills it with warriors, and surrounds himself with poison? 50 years after its discovery, the Terracotta Army continues to be one of the most iconic and mysterious sights on Earth. But in 2025, scientists would find something buried deeper than clay.
It's crazy that they're talking about red mercury because there's this game that just came out called Wu Chin. And one of the objects, or the main object in the game, is to collect as much red mercury as possible. So let that sink in. Are they trying to tell us something?
You never know you are a monster until someone comes to slay you.
Damn, that really makes you think. If you thought I didn't have an excellent specimen for you today, think again. Feast your eyes on this aquamarine. I absolutely love this piece. From the Gilgit-Baltistan province, Pakistan. Definitely a unique piece. It almost looks like that piece that they snapped off that Superman had to use to activate the technology. If I had to name this piece, I would call it Superman Keystone. Looks like they're transporting something from the Antarctic at breakneck speeds.
Hidden deep within the granite hills of Bihar, India, the Barabar caves defy conventional timelines. These chambers, carved into solid granite, exhibit flawless symmetry, nearly impossible mirror-like flatness, and astonishing acoustic properties. Sounds inside reverberate for up to 62 seconds, a feat modern engineering struggles to replicate. Most stunning is the polish, with a roughness 20 times smoother than today's industrial standards, achieved on one of Earth's hardest stones. No other known ancient culture, in India or beyond, has left behind anything quite like it. Could these caves be remnants of a forgotten high civilization, one with lost tools, knowledge, and intent we no longer understand?
Whatever technology they use, they definitely mastered it, I'll say that.
How could I not talk about giants of South America and leave out the work of Gladys Cordova? Gladys has hundreds of videos that she filmed on a mountain in Peru. They're in the 12 to 15 foot range. All throughout history, we have bones that have been discovered and then ushered away, hidden from the public, denied existence. We have photos, of course, of people that fit this bill, and just the way that this guy moved tells me that these people are still persecuted. But the way that he's dressed is not something primitive. This shows a people with a culture, and I think these people have a type of cloaking technology. And this man's cloaking technology is not functioning. It flickers in and out. But he has comrades around here whose technology is working perfectly. And you can just see little strobes of light. You can even see him talking to a little strobe of light here on this ledge that looks like an old road. And Gladys even sees it. She's circled it for us. And you can see it gets brighter as he approaches, brighter. And if you watch this whole video clip, you can even see him kneeling down and talking to one. Here you can see dirt that he's kicked up. Really amazing footage. Here he's past another small light, and he's like picking his nose right there, scratching his face. And here he'll have a little discussion right here. He passes one of these orbs and stops to talk to it, really hunching down and having a chat. Seems like there's a lot to discuss. And again, an overall air of concern with the man that we can see. He says okay, he's a little concerned, and he moves on. And in kind of a hurry, not a leisurely stroll. And we can see that at the end here, how apprehensive he is to go around this corner. He carefully looks over, carefully looking over. And this is just excellent, excellent footage. Again, this man is at a minimum 15 feet tall. And Gladys does comparisons.
In 15 feet tall using cloaking technology? Interesting.
What happened? What happened? Is this by accident or on purpose? Because this don't make no sense. So wait, let me see if I got this straight. You're trying to tell me that in every major city there was a great, and every time there was a great, your best buildings get down. Oh, you son of a... Now if your city or town comes up on this list, brother, you're smoked. You have been smoked. You're burnt. Burnt like toast. Now look at this. Michigan, fried, Copenhagen, cooked, Russian Empire, smoked. It just goes, look, New York. Come on, brother. Listen, if your city comes up on this list, it means you've been reset. One fire, wow. Look, New York again, brother. New York's been battered. Great Fire of Pittsburgh, brother. This can't be a coincidence. How come this keeps happening? There's no half baking going on here. These men are being fully baked, fully smoked. Okay? Zapped. This is reset territory. And you have to understand, people, every time there's these fires, it's always the greatest buildings that get destroyed. You think that's an accident? Come on, brother. You've got to do the maths and the science. It's simple. So yeah, I'm going to be doing more and covering this in depth. Because when I say I got their ass,
you definitely got to ask yourself, every single time one of these events happens, why is it the greatest buildings in that city that it happens to take place on?
Do you understand? I speak your language. Well, good. Senator Crane has come here to offer your people a better way of life. Better than what? Better than what you have. I like what I have.
I understand that. Your people live in the Stone Age. We live at the beginning of a great industrial revolution.
The United States government is offering you a piece of land of your own. We have our own land.
No, it's not yours. It's the U.S. government's.
Did they buy it?
No.
Did they trade for it? It's not like that. Then how can they own it? If you accept our offer, you can depend on your country to take care of you. You are not my country. We will give you everything you need if you will just submit to living on a reservation. We need nothing from you. Do you understand?
Yes, we understand. Man, that's all we got for today's video. If you made it this far, the code word is Super Thursday. Go ahead and drop Super Thursday in the comments below. When you do that, that lets me know you're a real one. You made it all the way through the video and you really rock with your boy. I just want to say thank you for your support. And I'm going to see you at the same place, same time tomorrow, every single day. With that being said, this was some disturbing TikToks that absolutely changed my reality. With that being said, have a good day.